In 2012, there were over 200 American outposts in Libya. Following the 2011 civil war and the deposition and execution of dictator Muammar Gaddafi, Benghazi became one of the most violent places in the world, forcing the United States to pull their outposts out of there, all except for one called the Annex, which is protected by a team of CIA contractors, the Global Response Staff aka GRS. Jack Silva, a former Navy SEAL and CIA contractor, arrives in Benghazi and is picked up by his best friend and fellow contractor, Tyrone Woods. On the way to the Annex, the two are stopped in the streets by a group of militants. Roan contacts their chief to bring in the rest of the team for help, but the chief refuses. The militant leader orders the two to pull over their vehicle for inspection. Jack and Roan pull out their guns for defense, and Roan tells the leader that there is a drone circling them and will get him and his family if they do anything to him and Jack. The two are allowed to leave. At the Annex, Roan confronts their chief, Bob, over not letting the team go in to help when they were stopped by the militants earlier. Bob reminds Roan not to engage civilians and avoid conflict with the militants. Jack meets the rest of the team, Tonto, Oz, Tig, and Boone. Jack goes on a brief task with two undercover CIA officers, Sona and Britt. The rest of GRS is nearby for protection. Roan spots a couple of suspicious men and gets out of the car, compromising his position. Jack is alerted and gets Sona and Britt out of there. The team is brought to the special mission compound where the U.S. ambassador of Libya, Chris Stevens, is staying. They meet other guards, Dave and Wickland, and become familiar with the location. On the morning of September 11, 2012, Stevens notices some dubious men around the compound taking pictures, prompting him to notify his security detail. Meanwhile, at the Annex, the team contacts their families. Jack talks to his wife and their daughters. One of the girls accidentally reveals that Jack's wife, Becky, is pregnant with their third child. That night, a large team of militants storm the compound and attack as the Libyan guards on the outside surrender. The militants fire off shots and invade the compound as Wickland takes Stevens and Sean Smith into the panic room. Knowing they can't break in there, the militants begin pouring diesel all over the floor to burn the men out. The fire is lit, bringing heavy smoke into the panic room. Wickland makes it out but ends up losing Stevens and Smith. The men at the Annex are informed of the attack and want to head out to help, but the chief refuses to send them out for fear that the Annex will be defenseless. As it's incurring heavy casualties, the team disregards the orders and heads over to the mission. After arriving, Jack and Roan find Smith dead from smoke inhalation. The team heads back to the Annex but are pursued by the militants with RPGs and AKs. The men fire back against the militants. Fearing retaliation, the CIA officers attempt to contact the nearest airbases to aid in a strike against the militants. They are able to contact Bub, a GRS officer in Tripoli, who rounds up his own team and heads down to Benghazi to help. In the midnight, more militants head toward the Annex and continue their attack against the Americans. The team fires back and continues to defend the compound, despite coming under heavy fire. The fight goes on and dozens of Libyan militants die in front of the Annex. The militants fall back and try to regroup, as does the team. Bub and his team arrive to help. The team is contacted to learn that Stevens' body was found, and that he died by smoke. Soon, the militants return and launch a mortar strike against the Annex. Roan gets hit and is killed, also Glenn, a few moments later. Oz is wounded and has his left arm mangled. Jack finds Roan's body and weeps for his best friend. As dawn arrives, the team is left vulnerable. A large convoy of vehicles head toward the Annex. Tonto has his gun aimed at a couple of men from the vehicles, but he gets a signal from them that they are there to help the team. Tonto cries with relief. These men from the Libyan army gather the Americans and bring them to an airfield. The bodies of Stevens, Smith, Roan, and Glenn are recovered and taken. The chief chooses not to get on the plane back home until Jack confronts him and orders him to, after reminding him he is partially responsible for some of the lives lost in the attack. Before departing, Jack calls Becky to let her know he is okay. He breaks down crying when he tells her that Roan didn't make it. As the plane arrives, Jack uncovers Roan's body to look at him one last time. Thanks for watching. See you in the next recap.